Long Island City, I think we're actually, Danny Drum's one of the co-sponsors of the bill.
Yeah.
I think. First, let me thank you for giving me the opportunity to come speak to you. Let me also just say that I prefer Heinz 57 because I don't think 31 is enough flavors. And I'm not, I'm not here to talk to you much about the religious side of this because you guys are all doing that in your pastorships, inside of your parishes. You understand from a religious paradigm what you're fighting for. I'm here to talk to you as somebody who's been a constitutional lawyer, somebody who got elected to bring a message of fiscal and social responsibility to the city government. I'm a Republican in the city council. That means I'm in a very, very small group. And unfortunately, the values that you are all here talking about aren't talked about in politics because, generally speaking, they don't have a place in politics anymore. People having convictions and beliefs, people who think that the framers said what they said and meant what they said, people who understand that the Constitution and the Declaration of Independence talked about life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness in that particular order, are not in vogue in New York City. Now, apparently, the rest of the country, we're doing pretty good. This past congressional cycle, we saw the House flip, and it flipped because of the voters like yourselves who are out there talking about values. When Council Bill 371 came to City Hall, and they had their first hearing, I saw many of you there, and I know Chris Slattery had the dubious distinction of being on the first panel to speak in opposition to this bill, and I hope he will remind you all that I did not let Planned Parenthood off lightly, and I will not let them off lightly. I think it was amazing for them to tell me with a straight face that there could be some confusion about what the Sisters of Life or Bridge to Life does, but there is no confusion that Planned Parenthood provides no parenting services. I think it's amazing the hypocrisy of our government willing to step in to regulate a not-for-profit organization with a religious theme when it's not willing to regulate the money it spends in an organization that goes out of its way to fool you into thinking Parenthood has something to do with their mission, when it clearly doesn't. I won't even speak to Chris's observations about the current state of the leadership at NARAL and Planned Parenthood. People who have taken public money, diverted it to their own personal ends, to pick up their children to the tune of $100,000 in limousines, to divert it to take vacation homes in the Hamptons on your tax dollars, while they are trying to pretend that they are about anything but abortions. And again, we're talking about an industry, make no mistake, it is an industry. And because it's an industry, it has a goal, and that goal is revenue. And the only way they're going to get revenue is to get people in the door. And once they're in that door, they cannot leave without acquiring the services for which Planned Parenthood and NARAL will get paid. And that's what this is about. Now you look at this bill and on face, anybody with half a legal mind would tell you there are flags all over the place. And I'm going to talk to you about a little of that so you understand where I'm coming from. The City of New York provides absolutely no regulation for other not-for-profits. The Commissioner of the Department of Consumer Affairs at the hearing testified that no, we do not regulate any other not-for-profit in the same way as we're proposing to do this. This bill was brought to the City Council under the typical hyperbole of there's something wrong going on and we're going to fix it. Here's what they claimed. They claimed that these crisis pregnancy centers not were just deceptive, but were practicing medicine without a license. That they were out there providing the full sense of medical practice in these locations. That's what they said. In fact, at the opening of the hearing, I see my good friend, the council member from the Bronx, one of the best, Fernando Cabrera, right there, ladies and gentlemen. They said in the opening statement by Jessica Lappin that this is about protecting women and protecting choice. Well, the health department sent its deputy commissioner there, a nice doctor, who was forced to admit, after I questioned her for about 15 minutes, that not one single medical-related complaint had been made against any of those crisis pregnancy centers. That not one investigation had been initiated by the city or the state about medical practice without a license. That there was, in fact, no direct evidence of any of the claims that were made by the chair of the committee on this bill. Not one. Why does that not surprise me? Because that's what they do. They rant and rave and talk about choice. Well, let's be choice. If we're taking away an option, are we giving choice to these women? Absolutely not. And that's what this is. A non-choice. This is telling them that there is one and only one solution. And that's why we find in New York City, unfortunately, almost half the pregnancies conceived wind up with a termination. And I don't have to tell you, because you all know disproportionately on which community those abortions fall. It's not my community. It's not Bayside. It's not Whitestone. It's not College Point. It's hurting communities of color disproportionately. It's doing it in a way that is very sublime, in a way that you'll never see, in a way that they can justify under the rubric of choice and women's health. And it's anything but. Now, again, I want to emphasize, and the pastor is great, and I know he's doing a hell of a job for you, excuse my language. You know, let me just say that, you know, I was a Catholic. I'm no longer a Catholic. I'm from way outside the pale when it comes to religion right now. But this is important. Every one of you is here from whatever religious denomination. I know there's some Jewish people here who are just as upset about this. I know there are some Muslim people who are just as upset. Believe me, there are some other people on other fronts who are just as upset. I've spoken to some of the Hindu congregations in my district. I have one of the most ethnically and religiously diverse communities in the city of New York, and they are upset at the thought of this wanton loss of life. But this is a legal battle, and make no mistake about it. The people in Maryland tried this, and a wise district court judge struck it down. And why did he strike it down? Because it's unconstitutional. You cannot fetter the hands of free speech in the United States. And what bothers me more than anything else is I sat there and listened to the New York City Civil Liberties Union, supposedly the guardians of our liberty, get up there in support of this bill and say, well, if it was tweaked properly, we wouldn't find constitutional issue here. If it's tweaked properly, we wouldn't find constitutional issue here. You know, our founding fathers believed not only in the separation of church and state, but that doesn't mean the church is not involved. It just means that the state will not regulate the church, okay? And that free speech is essential to our democracy, to our dialogue. Well, this isn't about free speech. This speech is nothing but a clamp down on a movement. And that movement, that pro-life movement, is something that we're not allowed to talk about because it's not PC, because it's not correct. And if you look down your list of council members you're going to talk to, you're going to find that there are a bunch of them who are in the closet about this. Yet deep down inside, secretly, they're pro-life. They can't say it because they got the D after their name. And so if you're in that party, you can't talk about it. And I can say that because I'm a Republican. Right, Fernando? But there are some brave men and women. There are some very brave men and women. And I do not envy them because, you know, my party will stand up for me and say, that's how it is. These people are really taking it on the line. And you owe them a lot more because it's very convenient for me as a Republican to say it. It's very convenient for me as a constitutional lawyer to say it. Now you have to convince the people who are going to feel the real pressure to say it. And I know one of them is here right now, and I know he's going to speak to you in a few minutes. I just want to thank you for what you're doing. I want you to remember that when you're making your argument, you're going to come across people across religious spectrums. Keep in mind, what are we talking about? Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. First and foremost is life. Thank you, and God bless you.